Oh boy, is this video going to be a tough one. If you've clicked this video without really reading the title or giving the thumbnail a second glance, you are probably hoping for one of our usual weekday videos discussing the world of cleaner, greener, safer, and smarter transportation. But today's video is one that I have been noodling on for many weeks, months actually. It's going to add an extra layer of discussion that some viewers may not like, but at the same time, it's not meant to beat anyone over the head with any particular political ideology. My decision to actually make and publish the video today, which is a long one, comes from 3 distinct pieces of news from the weekend that forced me to go from the, oh my God, I'm going to get completely downvoted if I make this video, through to, I think this video is one we need to make right now. So I hope that my decision was the right choice. If you're already reaching for the downvote or the next video, I totally understand. I might consider doing the same, especially with the politically charged world that we find ourselves in today. But I'm hoping that maybe, just maybe, you'll give this video a chance, because I'm going to explain, or at least try to, why all of us, fans, advocates, and owners of cleaner, greener vehicle technologies, need to care about and become active in our political world. I'm going to explain why electric cars and cleaner vehicles need us to care about and be active in politics. And when I'm done with the generalizations, explaining the need for us as citizens wherever we live to be cognizant of and engaged in our country's political system, I will include some editorialization, which will, at the very end, discuss my own personal opinions and outline some tough decisions I'm making relating to content creation this week. And in making this video, I'm not trying to teach my grandmother to suck eggs, or I'm not intending to be condescending. I'm vocalizing my own logic trails from start to finish in as unbiased and as fair a way as I possibly can. But before I do that, let's have a palate cleanser of a lovely plug-in vehicle driving on a lovely road. That's better. For as long as we've organised ourselves into communities, we humans have engaged in politics. From self-governing systems through to monarchies, dictatorships, oligarchies, and democracies, every nation in the world has some form of political system. And those political systems affect every aspect of the lives of the citizens of each nation, and often those of other nations too. Some political systems work pretty well. Others are completely and utterly broken. The politics of a nation covers the rights and freedoms of those citizens of the nation. It defines what is legal and what is illegal. It says how citizens can work, live, marry, and even raise a family. And of course, it defines what taxes you pay and ultimately where those tax bills end up being spent. In the electric and clean car world, politics influence how much of a tax rebate or a grant you might get if you buy a clean electric car. They might influence how easy or difficult it is for electric car charging companies to install and operate charging stations, because before these existed, the only companies that could usually sell electricity were utility companies. And policies, directly or indirectly, influence regulation around autonomous vehicles, safety standards, and much more. If you've ever played Civilization or City Skylines, you'll know that every turn pivots on your abilities as a leader. Who to trade with, who to go to war with, where to build new settlements or site new industrial zones, how to treat the local environment, and what to allow or ban in order to keep said environment healthy and pristine. It's all politics. Yet as a society, and perhaps even a community, we often find ourselves hiding from or becoming so splintered and factioned in our beliefs that we either shun political discourse completely, get angry with others in the comments section, or just turn off. When political discussion is shunned, or worse, ignored, we lose our ability to be part of the solution. And in the world of cleaner, greener vehicles, that is a dangerous precedent to set. Especially if you've got a vested interest in the outcome of something that relies on regulation, law, and politics to exist and grow. If you shun politics, if you say politics are not important to you or you do not care for them, then you are essentially allowing other people to make decisions on your behalf. If you're unwilling or unable to be part of the process that determines what happens where you live, then by all accounts you throw away your voice. While that is totally within your right to do, pretending politics is unimportant or not in the interests of the drive towards cleaner, greener vehicles is a fallacy, and that does not hold well under scrutiny. In most modern representative democracies, voted officials exist to represent citizens' voices. And while that is a very ideological, naive way of looking at it, and elected officials can and often are swayed by campaign donations and lobbying from special interest groups, their time in power is ultimately directly tied to how well they do their job and how well they're viewed by the people they work for. That's you. And that's what many people view as grassroots action. Working with your neighbours, your colleagues, your family, listening to concerns and actively discussing and planning solutions to problems, and most importantly, learning to be collaborative rather than antagonistic when you come across views that are different to your own. Educate, inform, collaborate, problem solve with people who have different opinions to you, and register to vote if you're not already registered. If you want better electric vehicle charging or a zero-emission zone in your town, or you want to end the big subsidies that fossil fuel industries have, well, then you need to actively engage to help that happen. It can be writing letters, it can be calling your elected officials, it can be peaceful protests. By engaging with your elected officials in your area and by getting to know what they stand for and what they believe in, and by letting them know what you would like to see and encouraging others around you to do the same and to become similarly engaged, you can affect change. Sure, one letter from Angry of Argyll complaining about the lack of charging stations on the west coast of Scotland would likely not do anything. But a whole bunch of letters from business owners and advocates working together to ask their individual elected officials throughout the entire region to establish a robust and reliable charging network that facilitates electric transit throughout the region, which would boost the economy, promote ecotourism, as well as renewable energy generation, well, that might have more chance of being heard and acted upon. And no, I know that Argyll itself is not a constituency anymore. It's made up of lots of smaller constituencies, but it was good alliteration. And frankly, if you want to see what good politics looks like when it comes to cleaner, greener, safer and smarter energy and transportation, just head northeast from Argyll to the Orkney Islands, where there's been a truly amazing green transportation revolution in the last 5 years, thanks to the hard work of citizens and businesses like Eco Cars, which happens to be based there. I am sure that some of you who've stuck with me to this point will be frustratedly pointing out how futile getting involved at a grassroots level is and how difficult it is because of X, Y or Z people, lobbyists and legislators, which is where partisanship comes in and the underlying opinion that some people have that suggests that our political world is either broken or pointless, so we shouldn't bother. And people who comment on this channel's videos that suggest our recommendation that people get out and vote is somehow politically dangerous or is out of line because we're not a political channel. All of these things cause us problems. In the modern world, it's become so easy and so simple to surround ourselves with people who think as we do, who act as we do, that we have in many ways forgotten how to compromise and how to work together. Compromise is the gold standard for governance. It is difficult to achieve, but when it's carried out and appropriately, citizens, not special interests, get to see real progress, be it a new policy on an internal combustion engine sale ban, green energy support, a fairer judicial system, or improved education for all. But when you have two sides who refuse to compromise or collaborate and where talking breaks into shouting, you are left, unfortunately, with two options: stalemate or physical conflict. The former is what we've been seeing in many governments around the world as echo chambers of modern social networking split people down extreme ideological paths, and neither side want to talk or work together. Elected officials and sometimes even entire governments have become so entrenched in the art of the soundbite and scoring points against each other on Twitter that we don't see any governance. But we, as citizens, have a chance to change that. Of course, physical conflict is what happens when citizens become so disenfranchised at their elected officials that they feel they have no other choice, or when two countries resort to weapons to determine who is right. Both ultimately are painful and bloody, but they're also an intrinsic part of the political world in their own way. Obviously, that's not always the reason why people go to war. Sometimes it's to stop dangerous people hell-bent on world domination or something equally heinous. But again, when politics govern pretty much everything in our life, it's in our interests to have an engaged, informed participation in it if we want our town, our region, our country, or our world to act in a way that achieves what we would like it to do. Now we've got to this point. Let's talk about the 3 news items that prompted me to actually write today's script. The first was the number of excited tweets and emails I got from people telling me this weekend that Dominican Republic's brand new president, President Luis Abinader, please tell me if I screwed that up, arrived at his inauguration ceremony this weekend in a Tesla Model S. A lot of you were wanting this highlighted. And honestly, I think rightly so. When a world leader arrives in an electric car at his inauguration and everyone is wearing face masks, it certainly suggests a policy direction that will encourage and support both cleaner forms of transit as well as science-based policies. It shows that while many of you do not believe politics and electric vehicles should intersect, that they most certainly do. Leaders should, by their very nature, lead by example. And that's exactly what we saw in the Dominican Republic this weekend. The second piece of news comes from a completely different source, a news outlet for electric cars. Again, many of you reached out to me about this, and I'm only mentioning it here because it goes against everything we should honestly be striving for in the way we report the news and be politically involved. Over the weekend, the owner of the Talk News YouTube channel used his position on the channel to essentially complain about the way in which 2 different murders were covered by the press. That's not necessarily the problem. The first, 5-year-old Cannon Hinnett, was shot by his neighbour at point-blank range. The second was the killing of George Floyd. The post and the comments made by him in his community section made for some pretty unpleasant reading. That's not necessarily unusual in YouTube land. I mean, unpleasant comments are basically the basis of YouTube. But this post went one step further into what was essentially blatant racism, conflating hearsay and conspiracy with actual news reporting. I don't want to spend a huge amount of time discussing it here, but suffice to say that this post made by this particular YouTuber, who sets himself up as a news reporter, was factually inaccurate in the way it portrayed both deaths to the point of embarrassment, and peddles conspiracy theories rather than actual news portrayals. It focused on continuing myths rather than stating facts, and it emphasized rather than examined the issues at hand. And I personally cannot condone that behavior because it makes the current situation we're in worse, not better. Some people at this point will note that I've used my position as a YouTuber to discuss politics in the comments section before, and I have, but from a position of fact rather than hyperbole, and I will come back to that in a second. So here's where we come full circle, back to the idea of partisanship and echo chambers. As a YouTuber, a journalist YouTuber, my job is to try and report the news factually to the best of my ability, to let you know when something is factual and actual, as in this happened and this person said this thing, or alleged, person A said person B said ... It's why we try to cite our sources wherever possible, and it's why I try really hard to notify you of retractions or corrections when I need to make them, because we all screw up from time to time. And while journalists are allowed to express an opinion, they have a duty to let you know when they're reporting facts versus personal opinion. Again, I strive to do this, and sometimes I do fail. But when it comes to reporting, even politics, I do try my best to not be partisan. Sometimes I fail, and for that I'm sorry. Ultimately, though, my goal is not to provide people with an echo chamber. It's to help people come together to solve a problem, regardless of where they are politically or where they are socially. And that problem is the scientifically proven climate crisis we find ourselves in right now, something that electric vehicles cannot solve, but can certainly help alleviate. Your job? Keeping me honest and fair, whatever we as a channel report on. Finally, let's get to the last bit. The bit where I am going to let you know some of my own personal politics, which is probably not a surprise. Tomorrow, and for 72 hours after that, the re-election campaign for President Donald Trump has paid some pretty massive sums of money to blanket advertise on sites like the Wall Street Journal, the Washington Post, Fox News, and even streaming sites on Hulu and YouTube to coincide with the Democratic National Convention. It means that pretty much every video on YouTube will have a banner advertisement on it from the Trump campaign, as well as play a video ad that, if it's like previous ads I've seen from the campaign this season, is factually incorrect and will likely focus on spreading fear and division rather than actual debatable differences between the two main candidates in the US general election, which is what all political adverts should focus on. At the moment, and things have been changing as I've sat here writing the script and then filming it, it looks as if some of those ads will actually be unskippable, forcing you to watch them before you watch our content. Some of you have reached out asking me not to make content at all, some have asked me to skip ads, and some just wanted me to know that this was happening. As a content creator, I have a couple of different options. I can set my new videos this week to not show any ads at all, something which will ultimately affect my bottom line as a business. I can turn off ads entirely on the entire channel until the election. But that isn't tenable, as YouTube revenue pays for about 1/2 of our income. I could just not post content either, which is channel suicide in YouTube world. Or I could hope that the ads are either not as invasive as I fear they might be, or maybe more factually based rather than just spin. I do not know what we're ultimately going to do, but I do know that, again, these ads are essentially the payback we've had as a society for not being properly engaged in politics, for not being willing to fact check or examine our candidates, for listening to spin and hyperbole from whichever side. And I can tell you that I will be writing to YouTube to voice my concerns over the ad placements. I will be asking them to provide skippable ads and to ensure that any published ads meet with fact-checking approval. I honestly doubt that my voice alone will do anything, but by getting involved and working with other content creators, I'm hopeful that we can cut through the hyperbole and bring some honesty to this campaign. Some will comment that I'm doing exactly what I berated others for doing, that I am being a hypocrite, and, you know, maybe I am. I am a member of a minority that's felt marginalised and excluded by harmful policies from the current administration. I'm not going to lie about that. And someone who's seen those policies affect others I care about, I personally cannot condone the tactics being used by the Trump re-election campaign, which amount to fear and misinformation. If the election campaigns were fairer and more honest, I would have less issue. And in the past, I have complained publicly on my personal Twitter, as I quite often do, and yes, once on this channel, about policies that have impacted myself and those I care about that are not directly related to EVs. I will endeavour to keep my personal political commentaries moving forward on my personal Twitter, not here. But here, I will continue, as I have, to report verifiable facts as such. As to the YouTube ads, for now, I will play it by ear. I will pay close attention to ads being placed on this channel in the next week. If I personally see an ad that is factually incorrect or hyperbole, I will report it and ban that ad, for which I need an actual URL. But I also need to ensure that as a creator, I can continue to make content as well as pay everybody on the team. Since this is a video encouraging you to get involved in politics, I would be hypocritical if I didn't allow political ads. But regardless of which side those ads are coming from, I hope you and I can work together to ensure that the adverts are fair and fact-checkable, not made-up ones. So here's where you come in. If you see an advert on a video from this channel which you feel is factually and provably incorrect, please report it to YouTube. I'll link a link below explaining you how to do that. If you're not able, link that video URL to us on this channel and we'll add it to the videos that we believe are factually inaccurate on our ban list. Hopefully together we can work to solve the problem of these echo chambers and get back to old-fashioned collaborative problem solving. Death Valley, California set a new, verifiable record high yesterday. Experts studying sea ice have just announced that the ice sheets in Greenland are past the point of no return. This will result in a 23 feet or 7-meter sea level rise over the next 1,000 years. As a society, we have reaped what we sow. Making our future cleaner, greener, safer and smarter requires everyone to work together, and being active and accountable in our political world is our very first step. That's it for today's video. If you'd like to help us make more videos like this, please do like, comment and subscribe, and you can support us using the links below, which now include Ko-fi, Patreon and Bitcoin. And yes, because this video discusses politics, we are not able to monetize this due to YouTube policy, so please, if you can, consider helping. I would really appreciate it. Don't forget too that you can chat with the team on Discord, there's a link below, and if you're a Patreon supporter, you'll get access to our special Discord chats. Thanks to our folks scrolling by on my right, they are our charged up patrons. Thanks to Jeffrey Songster, John Lyons and Regine Fellows, our self-driving patrons. And thanks to our Starman level patrons, Marcel Ward, Reggie Watts, JP Fagerback and Sean Udea. If you are looking for something else to watch from this channel, then Google thinks you might enjoy this one, so check it out if you haven't seen it already and you haven't had enough from me, and I'll be back soon with more content for you all to enjoy. If you have watched to this point, thank you, and until next time, wash your hands, stay safe, wear a mask when you're out and about, and work to become a better, kinder person. Strive for equality, work with others, speak out against injustices and bullies, and treat others as you would like to be treated yourself. Be the change. And if you haven't yet registered to vote and you are eligible to in the US, please do that. I don't care who you vote for, we just need to make democracy work for everyone. Thanks for joining me, and until next time, keep evolving.